for an offensive strategy, and that's as we see it in VMA. I want to point out some elements. The first one is with the occupation of the factory, the aim of the workers was and is to save wage labor, to preserve the workplace, to continue to be able to provide wage labor. And this also makes, in a sense, the wage labor that the productive base can provide a common. Because this not only involves the workers that used to work there, but the opportunity for new workers to have wage jobs in the place. The second issue is about the ownership of the factory and of the infrastructure. The VMA COP does not demand to take ownership of the land and of the machinery of the buildings. We demand that the society takes ownership of the building, of the area, to continue to give wage labor to the society. There is two ways to do that. One is the traditional way of nationalization, not nationalization of the company itself, but of the land and the building and the infrastructure made by the state. This will make it a public good, controlled by the state, capitalist state, which mainly is the state of the capitalists. The other way is to be taken over by the Social Security Fund, which comes from the solidarity funds of the workers. This is the origin of the Social Security funds. And in that sense, it will be in the ownership of the working class, the 90% of the population, but it will be the working class taking ownership of the factory. In that sense, we can maybe think that it will be a common of the working class, not a state-owned public property that can be privatized as the capitalists do. The third issue is about inner democracy of the cooperative and how it works. We believe that the self-management and the pro-democracy of the working conditions of the decision-making body, which is the assembly, it's the most modern, the most effective way to manage a company. It's also used by capitalists in a diverse way with this all-modern managing of the companies, especially in services, with various meetings and supposedly giving responsibility to the workers, which is not true. But if you do it generally, in a true democratic way, now you have only one assembly, but if you have a bigger company, you have to have work groups of people and coordination meetings and so on. But you still have a real democracy in decision making, in what you produce, how you produce it, what's the working conditions, and so on. This is a way to have a more effective way of managing your production. And of course, you have, and we should do it also in a sense of not only workers' control democracy, but also social control democracy, which we believe is one and the same thing. So these are all, we believe, there are offensive policies to provide a new model of a new economy. One final remark is what we are doing in the recuperated companies and big factories. We are trying to build a productive base, working conditions in a new level, a post-capitalist level. It is true that in this big crisis, in many cases, workers and communities have resolved to fall back in a pre-capitalist way of production. They are forced to do that because they need to survive, to create other forms of cooperatives maybe more democratic and so on and so on. But nevertheless, there are pre-capitalist ways to produce. There are ways, they are trying to find ways to exchange goods and services in a way to resort back to the pre-capitalist way of commodity production and exchanging goods and services. What the recapitulated enterprises provide us is a post-capitalist way of production. And it is true that if you are building a post-capitalist enterprise, a post-capitalist forms, yes, you will still live inside capitalism. This will not be a socialism, a new society. It did not happen even if in revolutionary states there were still post-capitalist states. They were never socialist or communist or whatever they were thinking they are. And yes, in a much smaller element, having these self-managed cooperatives and big enterprises is a post-capitalism way that provides examples, but that provides experience, that provides education, that provides more offensive will of the workers to do things like that and to go forward and to oppose the ruling system, the capitalist system, that have the tools to do that. We cannot expect that this society will change in just one day. We have to have also the experience and we'll do it truly, do it step by step. So this is also an offensive policy to provide tools to what the next society will be. I will try now to read one part of the decision we made in December about our project. One part, it's about our critique to what the comrades here from Enclo and what we believe about the situation there and our proposition. I will try to do a translation from the Greek document because we have always a barrier of the language, so you have to excuse me. So, you have to make clear, starting reading, our position about the effort that is done to the Enclo and the ways they are trying to start again the factories. We respect and we support the efforts of the workers there to save their jobs. But we have to be clear that their process, which is supported by the government, has nothing to do with the self-management and the way of organization of BOME, as some of the media say that it is. We believe that it's a plan of workers' participation in a classical capitalist enterprise, which is, like many others, have that been introduced in many developed capitalist states, where workers participate with the banks and with the state, making their demands shares to the new company. The debts, or maybe only a part of the debts of the old bosses, are being accepted by the workers who start to produce in an effort that they should repay the debts to the banks and to the state. In the same time, there is no effort, there is no change in the managerial hierarchy and the exploiting of the company, and the co-management with the banks and the state gives no independence to the workers. In Greece, there was a classical paradigm with the problematic businesses in the 80s, where they were nationalized and the bosses managed to take in their pockets the debts, but at the same time it was good because the jobs and the production was saved, but it was managed by the golden boys of that period. Yes. The state bureaucracy, And finally, it drove in 81, 41 of the biggest companies in Greece to close down and almost 60,000 workers to be fired. Our thesis is that any plan to restart the company should be for the workers, who should first of all relieve the workers from the deaths of the old bosses. Following that, there should be given an opportunity to the workers to self-organize and choose by themselves in direct democracy procedures the way they will manage the working conditions and the management of the company. In that sense, we call for the workers to take the companies in their hands, truly take the companies in their hands, with a collective self-management and equal participation of all, without hierarchy and discrimination, in an effort to cover real social needs and social control and protection. The institution should allow us to do that. Just one small paragraph, okay? That's what I'm reading. We know very well that no institutional framework can provide to us what we gain in action and what we defend socially. In that sense, we say that VOME will continue to work under workers' self-management, proving that self-management is not an utopia, that it really is a realistic alternative of dignity and autonomy and freedom against the state of unemployment and exploitation and so on. So we are determined not to give up what belongs to us and what we have gained, and to sit upon the collapsing state and the society, the seeds of a new life of freedom, cooperation, and creation from all to all.